Sí, igual ahí pues vamos conversando. Espera que él salga. Ah, bueno, ahí ya estamos en vivo. Entonces, listo aquí, espera que yo veo que aparezca. Y listo, ahora sí. Entonces, listo. Buenos días, ¿cómo están? Bueno, esta es una charla que tenemos pues como bastantes expectativas. Pues agradecemos a Alonso que bueno, yo lo conocí hace poco y pues amablemente nos brindó pues como este espacio. Él sabe un montón y pues esperamos que sea pues como de su agrado. Bueno, ya entonces la idea es que él tome pues como el espacio y yo voy a estar mirando los comentarios. La idea es que sea muy interactivo, pues igual Alonso ahorita nos va a contar pues cómo tiene preparado el espacio. Pero entonces la idea es que pregunten mucho. La idea es que, bueno, Alonso habla español, pero pues, vamos a hacer el espacio en inglés para que también practiquemos pues como ese tema de inglés. Eh, Igual si tienen como preguntas o algo, o si no entienden algún concepto, pueden escribir en español en el chat. Yo estoy pendiente y trato pues como de interpretar las preguntas y bueno, la idea es que eso no sea, como acaba de decir Alonso, un video como pregrabado, sino más como interacción. Bueno, entonces, listo. Muchas gracias, Alonso, por estar acá.
Hola Andrés, muchas gracias por el espacio. Sí, sí, yo vivo en Vancouver. Conocí a Andrés en un meetup. Fue excelente que tengo esta oportunidad de poder hablar con todos ustedes. Eh, me apasiona IoT, entonces aquí estoy a la orden para lo que sea. Andrés, si puedes compartir mi pantalla. Perfecto. Right. We're going to start again. So, today we're going to talk about from commit to remote devices under 5 minutes. So, these last few years, I've been doing a lot of IoT, and yeah, usually it takes a lot of time. Like it's easy, you build and you push a few steps here and there, but eventually it becomes tedious and you stop doing it. So, a little bit about me. I'm a staff DevOps in a company here in Vancouver. I'm a father of and husband of two. Sorry, I'm a husband and father of two. I used to manage a cybercafé when I was 14. I remember those days when I had to crack video games to connect to pirate servers. So yeah, that was nice. I consider everything not the short term, but thinking big, how systems connect to each other. In my role, for example, when I want to improve the performance, it's not about the system. So it's not about the software. It's about the people working on the software. That's most of the problems. I do woodworking. Like I have a whole bunch of like small little devices here and there. I don't know if you can see, but this is actually a 3D printer, laser cut, and CNC machine. That's where I did all this. So yeah, this is for me is a hobby, but I've been doing it for a while now. That I think I can take the next level. So yeah, last year I started building that smart lockbox, and with that, the first things I did was CI/CD pipeline. So this is a little bit. This presentation is a little bit of that the result of that whole project. So a little bit of going back into the why. What are some common problems with trying to deliver at a scale some uh, like in this case it's an IoT device, but it's really a on-prem device. So anything that you can control remotely, like you can use this. It could be an ATM for the bank. It could be like actually machines in your basement, if you will. Uh, so initially, when you're trying to get things done, you just SSH into the machine, you build locally, you copy and paste, and it's just a few commands. Or if you are using UI's interface, just drag and drop, and it's like, oh, this is easy, right? But if you have to do that drag and drop, like I don't know, we commit like 20 to 50 times a day. So if you spend 1 minute doing that copy and paste, like it's basically an hour a day that you're saving a day. Uh, so because as you scale, the team grows. Not everybody knows like those specific things that you need to actually get the deployment successful. So that knowledge is lost. Lack of visibility in the sense that you drop it and is the computer okay? Like, is the this space okay? Like, what processes are running? Is a CPU spike or not? It's really limited when you need to like connect to multiple devices or see multiple devices at the same time. So yeah, we have tools for that. So let's leverage the tools that we have. And finally, um, this is a really interesting one. Uh, for example, I started as a software developer, and eventually I was turned platform engineer. So I have a little bit of both sides in now IoT. So put another one there. But the thing is that right now we have a team of two. One is a specialist in the platform, and another is especially in the front end, right? So this device has to interact with hardware, right? So if you press the button, something has to happen, right? Developers are using their computers to actually test and see if the thing is working or not, right? So if it's hard for the front end developer to actually test in a physical device, they are not going to test, right? And then they won't know that the code they change is not correct until uh, later on. So with that, we go into the why, right? So why is it so difficult? Why teams don't talk to each other? And so this is the negative reinforcement loop, the worst of all. If you are in a growing company, medium size, or even big company, as you are more tests, as you are more code, more developers, master and main start to like get congested and things become slower. Like 1 minute slower is going to add up because 1 minute slower for 10 developers is going to add to an hour releases. And then now you cannot deploy on demand and you will start batching. And with batching, the business is going to start concerning with what are we going to do next. And then you get to start priority issues. And once you get into priority issues, a lot of things are going to start to work in parallel. So we need this priority and this priority. So let's have two teams and they are going to work in parallel. But in reality, they are working in the same thing. So this is going back to like you have a hardware team and a front end team. They seem to be isolated from each other, but in reality, you have to hold the whole thing together, right? So this can go for a while, like even a year, and you know that you are at the bottom when in companies you are mostly talking about what you're going to do and not enough time doing the actual job. uh, yeah, so this is CI/CD basically breaks this loop and start improving. Like everything becomes easier, and suddenly like your developers are 2x performant. Like something that used to take like a week, now it takes 2 days. It's like you don't know why, but it's like, oh man, this is so powerful. And the beauty is that now you have transformed that into a positive reinforcement loop. So because that team is actually delivering, teams are the business is going to start trusting more the teams, and with trust you have more autonomy. And then it's like this is like when you start running, it's like I can do a lot of things. I'm giving the freedom to do a lot of things, and the business becomes successful. So yeah, this is the goal, the place to be. So how do we get there? Uh, pa, 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 pa. Data metrics. If you haven't checked data metrics, this is the theory of DevOps. So data metric are four metrics: deployment frequency. So basically, it's the number of deployments per day. This is super simple metric. Anyone could measure this, but you should measure it. Like you will be surprised how many times I have conversation. It's like how often do you do release? It's like good. No measurements. Change failure rate. So how many times you deploy to production and customer complaints, right? And then lead time of changes is like how long does it take a developer to push that code all the way to customers? Not sandbox, not in a ticket somewhere in 3 months. Is going so end to end. Like, are you validating your code changes with actual customers? And the mean time to recovery is like when things don't go as expected. First, how long does it take you to realize that things are not working as expected? And two, how long does it take you to like actually fix the issue? So in Dora, they have these like elite, medium, and low performance. So the low performers are like when you deploy less than once a month. So, and the thing is that going back to the feedback loop, if you deploy once a month, the problems that the business is going to solve is quite different, right? So if we can only deploy once a month, everyone will want to have a say into what is going to be deployed, right? When you start getting into one deploy a week, and then it's like, okay, now the team can be a little bit more autonomous, right? And into what ticket are they going to work on, for example. But when you start deploying a day, it's like whatever the business want, I'm just going to get it done, and I have a whole bunch of free times. You might want to watch YouTube. You might want to reinvest that time into making the business successful. So, but at the end of the day, you get super high performance. Um, so yeah, the benefits of this particular solution is something that I call infra as GitHub Actions. A little bit of history about infrastructure. So initially, when you start your career, you go to a cloud provider like AWS, and you go and click around, and hey, I need a Lambda function, I need a load balancer, and then great, you got your setup up and running. It feels amazing, like, oh, I didn't know I could do this, right? And then the company is successful, and suddenly you have 3 teams, and it's like, okay, now we need 3 infrastructures. It's like, well, I don't want to work that much anymore, and if 3 more, I will just clicking around to put more things. And when things change, how confident are you that you're changing the right resources in the cloud? So then they created infrastructure as code. So basically, it's a way for you to declare the infrastructure in text, and you can commit and store. So initially, I used CloudFormation for this. But literally in the last 3 days, we refactored the whole thing, and now we're using Terraform. So it's not 5 minutes; it's now like 2 minutes. So yeah. So the benefits of this particular solution is that it's developer friendly. So literally, it's like 7 lines of YAML file. You can have a whole pipeline. I'm using GitHub Actions, so it's like the deployment is a 7 lines. The whole action is like 40 lines of YAML. It's self-serve. So usually you have 2 teams. You have the platform team and the development team. In this case, me as a platform, I'm going to create a Terraform, but you as a developer are going to execute it, right? So I still have the governance of how the infrastructure is going to be provisioned and how the rollout is going to happen, but the team is empowered to like execute it and configure it. So this is the architecture, right? So when we push code using GitHub and GitHub Actions, so GitHub Actions will automatically create the repo, and so build the Flutter. All right. So okay, let's step it back a little bit of my setup. So if I just see here, so I have this a little bit screen similar to this, right? So this one has here you can put a Raspberry Pi. This thing is like $50, so you can do a lot of things with that. But I have a smaller version here. That is the one that I have connected to the computer. So if I move this around, so this is what you can see on the screen. So I'm gonna give you a demo first of the thing, and then we're gonna go back to what is behind this. So again, I'm clicking here, but what you're seeing on the screen is this small little screen. So this is a demo app. This is with Flutter. Yeah. So the app itself is not what we're after. It's just like this is my setup as a developer. I can just like git commit, and this thing is going to be updated in 3 minutes. right? And that thing could be like the whole development environment. Like I can have connected or connections or controlling a specific device. So yeah, going back to this. So what is behind this pipeline? I have GitHub. GitHub will automatically create an S3 bucket where the bill of Flutter will go. And then it's going to use AWS SSM to send a new version. And SSM will roll out that to all the devices across cloud, prem, or on remote devices, like this small Raspberry Pi. So all this is declared with this code. So in this case is like instantiating a Terraform, which is the first one. But imagine that is like your cloud account. And the second part is defining all the steps or all the scripts that are going to run on every single machine. We'll get into a deep dive later on, and we'll see exactly what those files have. And the results are this. So this is the last 3 runs like from yesterday. So if I change code, it takes 2 minutes to deploy. And with that, let's do a demo. Yay! So as you see, going back here, as you see, the name is Jose. So let's change that Jose and put Alonso. So if we go to cursor and we change this to Alonso and I push, oh, I didn't save. And it's going. So let's go see what is happening. So this will trigger an execution. So the pipeline is going to set up Flutter, install Flutter Pi, which is the version for install a specific binary for the Raspberry Pi. So yeah, this will take 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to jump into how do we monitor this, right? So we're using Datadog. So that same script is already installing Datadog. So that goes into like me as a platform. I can set up the foundations, but yet you're calling it. So the node that I have here is called demo one. So if I click here, I can see the CPU utilization. But if I click into the dashboard, this is the whole history. So I turned this off like an hour and a half ago, and you can see like I think this is one deployment. So you can, yeah. Let's see. So going back to like what processes are running, this is like the consumption of each process. If a developer is changing something and we're starting to hit some limits, we as the operations, we will know and we can set alerts, and yeah, nobody wants to run out of this. So going back to here, where are we at? Oh yeah, it's done. So this will change the SSM. So in SSM, we have demo here. I come here and now SSM will know that, oh, there is an association change. So it will automatically roll out that association based on. So let's go deep into the push. So this is how you define where do you want to deploy. So again, the developers can control their workflow. Like this could be QA. You can put here environment QA and it's going to deploy to all QAs. Or you can be using pull requests and you can set up here like my pull request, like the one that I'm using here. So it's pretty flexible to support both of those. Yeah, still pending. Or is it? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can see that it rebooted. So if we go back here and I press this now, we see it's Alonso. So it's crazy that we have this performance, like all the stuff that is happening to get this right. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So now I intend to go deep into like the actual code, how this is working, and going deep into like the scripts and anything. But from this point on, like Andres was saying, you're the driver here, so you're not watching a YouTube video. You're actually like you have me to answer your questions and continue the conversation in what you find interesting or want to know more. So, Andres.
Okay. Okay. What was so interesting? All that was happening at the same time. So maybe the students are a little shy right now because maybe they are processing all of that information that you got here. But I want I have also several questions for you, but maybe that could be like um, break ice for them, maybe. Also, we have another viewers, is not only students. So about how much you have to pay for example, Datadog. Um,
Right,
the whole infrastructure is free, or you have to pay for anything?
right. That's an excellent question. So, these, the control in AWS SSM, I think it's like $5 per node. Uh, but I think that can go to free for the first year and using up to 1,000. I think you can control up to 1,000. Uh, the second part is Datadog. The actual agent that we're using, Datadog has two agents now. Have the normal agent. We installed the IoT agent. So I don't know 100% sure the cost, but I think it's like $5 also for the agent on the device. But yeah, don't quote me on that. I haven't been charged, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So the solution have you have to pay, but I say, for example, when we use Firebase, I say Firebase is almost free everything. But if you have to pay to Firebase any cents for anything, it's because you have like a good product, and you have transaction and everything, and you have money to pay for the infrastructure. So
Yeah.
this is what
So
about that in this case?
going back to the reasons why you want this, right? So even though it's not giving you, so it expensive, right? It's expensive you losing the customer, right? Because your team doesn't know that that device is peak, and that already happened in development, right? So we installed the first agent, and the CPU was spiking a little bit higher. Right. So now my team is like getting ahead of problems because they have the observability to know that there is a problem. Right. And yeah, at the end of the day, is all about customer experience. Uh, who is going to realize that there is a problem? Do you get calls from customer complaining and then you react, or you proactively find out what the problems are?
Okay, so we have the first question. Uh, is that the only way to get observability?
Absolutely not. Right. This is my preference. I've been working with that the last 7 years, so I'm really familiar with all the capabilities. So I don't have to spend time like how do I do this with the observability tool, but I just get the value right away. Like for me, it's like figuring out is there something wrong? Like why is something wrong? How do I go deep into like the traces of the specific function that is causing long pull or something similar?
Okay, I have a question. Is related, like you say, about cursor and about the time that took all the whole development process.
Yeah,
I want to discuss about that, and then I have another question. So maybe the students could have more, but okay, go ahead. What about the time? How much time uh, the app took to develop?
right.
Uh,
So
uh,
this whole app is smoke and mirrors. This is for a demo. But this was created like I think on Friday, on last Friday or Saturday. So it's like it has 3 days, something like that. And it's like, yeah, the developer working on this, like he learned how to code like 6 months ago, and we use Cursor from the beginning. And like it's funny that when he was saying like, oh, the heartbeat is like, oh, that was 3 prompts, and then the heart beeping is like, oh, that was a little bit hard, it was like 5 prompts. So now we're talking about how many prompts each feature is like, yeah, we're living in the future. So again, if you're not using AI to do your job, like start researching.
okay, and do you have like any setup in Cursor for achievement that, or is regular setup from Cursor?
It's see that's the thing. So I've been advocating for AI since I don't know. I started like 3 months ago, and it's funny to see the initial user of Cursor. So it's not a problem with Cursor; it's a problem with the user. Like we are really bad at communicating. Like, hey, I want this thing to do that thing. It's like, what do you want again? And the problem with Gen AI is like it's going to assume everything and give you anything. So we have to get better at explaining what we actually want, right? So the trick I always use is do not write code. Like I finish my sentences with do not write code. Let's have a conversation. Ask me questions about what you think I want. So it's like literally you're talking to your PM, to your product manager, right? It's like, okay, tell me again what exactly, how is the validation? And it's like we're basically writing the tech requirements in the prompt itself, and then that is going to give you a lot more accuracy at the time of executing of the code. So spoiler alert, it's the same as humans. If you don't have a good PM talking to your developers, you're not solving the right problem.
So your hack is talking with Cursor, yes. And it's curious that you mentioned that you asked don't write code, because Cursor has like two modes, ask and like write code right away. So you use ask, or you are in the mode that writing code and you say don't write code.
Excellent question. And there is also a third mode. If you do Command K, you have inline code. So you can say change this wording differently, and it's only that line. You also have chat, which have context about the file that you're at, and then you have agent who has access to the whole workspace, right? So unless you were using add workspace, the chat window wouldn't have access, right? But to answer this question directly, I don't use ask at all because again, I have conversations with the with AI. Like for example, the other day I was working with I was pulling some documents from Notion, and I asked the app to validate. Right, so do the code, execute the code, and validate. So he has to go and read the stuff. So you can actually see the bot. Okay, I'm gonna read this thing. I'm gonna execute this. Oh, this failed, or this was okay. Let me read the output to ensure that the output is correct. So chat don't have functionality to execute commands and start reading code as if you were a developer. It's funny. It's really funny how it's like, oh, I would have done that, I would have done that, I would have done that, but it took me a minute to do all that instead of like copy and pasting, Stack Overflow, and executing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe some of the viewers share your opinion. or maybe are learning something new. For example, for me, is something new because it's another approach to talk with cursor. And also, this is like my another question, like is about is a process. For example, um, programming is I compare programming right now like a pilot career, because a pilot or airplane pilot has to have hours. He has plane hours, and the hours is the experience of the pilot, right? So if you know, if a pilot has many hours, he has many experience. So
Yeah.
it's a way that is working right now, AI for us. But I think that if you start doing hours with the AI, uh, you have to, like you say, stop the tool and know what it's doing. And it's like, for in short, the short question is, when you use a cursor on AI in that way, it's like you are going to the gym to practice your skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're don't leaving that the tool do everything, and you only see uh, looking that the tool is doing. So
Yeah.
what do you think about don't lose your experience because AI, you have to use the AI. We are not against AI, but you have to, like, it's less as a symbiosis with AI. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a reason why Copilot is Copilot. Like Copilot is like from GitHub Copilot, and then it's Microsoft Copilot, and then everything is Copilot. Because if you try to replace humans, you're gonna have a really, really hard time. It's a lot easier to enhance humans with AI, right? So it will take humans halfway what they took before, right? That is 2x, and basically savings for the cost for the business. uh, but I have to be honest too, like Adrian was saying, right? So the quality of the code. Like I've been using Cursor 3 months now, and at the beginning I was also a junior writing prompts, and it was painful. That there is a video like, Cursor, please do what I ask you to do. You're not listening to me, because that's the thing. That if you're talking to a human and the human is just ignoring you, and it's like you start to understand the limits of the tool, right? One of the limits is context, right? So humans have a really, really big context, so you can think what you did, or experiences you had years ago, right? Cursor had experiences that happened 15 minutes ago. If you start prompting more, it just forgets what you just, I just told you not to do that. Why are you doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to manage those issues.
Yes, it's funny also the relationship with AI, because it's like your friend, and you say, I share your opinion about Copilot. Copilot for me is the best name for an app right now. The like the good parts of everything. You have to use AI like a Copilot. You are the pilot, and the AI is like your helper, and you say enhance like humans. And right now we are like cyborgs, because we have like AI to, you could ask whatever you need, like in Matrix, you could know plural, like you say. I could say, hey, I need to know plural, and you know plural, like Neo knows how to do kung fu in the movie.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is,
So careful, the quality of the code is not going to be great. It's like written by a junior. It's going to forget the stack. It's going to forget the architecture, the framework. Is going to start assuming that, oh, you want this thing, and then writes that down and start failing. And then it goes into the rabbit hole of the failure. And like I had one experience where the whole app went down because tried to run a migration, renaming a row, a table column, right? And then it's like you change the table column, now you need to change the whole app all the way up, and then it's like the change is way too big for anyone to be able to recover from, right?
Yes.
So, but keep in mind, this is not a human, right? So restore and git are your friends, right? So when I try to execute something, I learning how to realize we're not in the right track, right? And then it's like, okay, just stop, let's start over again, and I modify the prompt, right? So that's amazing. You have like alternative universe, like you can just go back in time 3 minutes, and then you, oh, by the way, this is the stack, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do that. No, hold on, way back, and then this is the structure I want you to use. And then it's like it goes down, and it's like, oh yeah, and you also want to no, be specific about what I asked you. So you are like rewriting the prompt as is going back in time.
Yes, and also by coding is an expression really popular right now, but I think that this expression is misunderstood because something that your by coding is enjoying everything and don't put attention that what is doing AI in some type cases, like you say, they could make your project a mess in few minutes. Is this the
Mhm.
reason for the question? But um, for example, what are your we have another question and also like opinions in the chat. I go into the in a moment. But for example, I said before you're asked to do something, maybe is a good practice to create a commit uh, because maybe if you don't put attention or if AI goes far away, maybe they could change things that you are not expecting to change. For example,
Absolutely.
in those days, I was in a React project and Cursor create a view file was really strange. But what is your recommendation about? Yeah, it's like good practice to coding in with like a partner like AI. You say it a few ones,
So
but you have more experience because you say also that you are a junior in prompting, but right now you are like a medium or senior in prompting or
growing, growing. Uh, the thing is that in byte coding, the sense I take is that it's considered binary, right? You are or you aren't, right? And the hack is that you transition in a single coding session. You switch from I'm in control to I let you go, right? Like for example, it depends the abstraction level that you want to own, right? Like if you are in the code, you might create the interface, right? And then it's like go do the implementation and you create a unit test. So I don't care if you use a for loop or a while or anything, as long as the tests are passing and the outputs are what is expected, right? If you let it go, like okay, I want this feature, do the whole thing, is really likely that it's not going to work and it's going to rename your table.
yeah. Okay, we're going with Juan Andres. It's crazy how our coding world is changing so fast using these AI tools. Us coders now need to learn the basics deeply just to know what to ask and how to fix the AI mistake. So this he is an student. I want to know your point of view about learning process right now. So
Exactly.
uh, because we learn without AI. Also, we have like AI classes, AI theory, but in my time everything was like theoretical. you could create like AI like software, but was really basic right in my time. But right now, is AI like a must that you have to have to you have to have experience with AI. So, but you also have to understand everything. You have to have the concepts, the fundamentals, the core concept of everything. For example, in programming, I know if you want to use AI properly, you have to know what are you doing. So, what are your recommendations for students right now about that?
Right. So learning. So I got experience with suffering, right? Like I was saying before, Stack Overflow, like you have to suffer of making the mistake, and that's the best teacher, right? You can go read and try to avoid learning from somebody else's experience. That's something that humans can do. You go read a book, and now you avoid that mistake. But if you want to actually learn how to use like AWS, right, you have to go and build it, right? And you are going to figure out, oh, it's really hard to get that policy right. And then I'm going to open and it's, no, wait. So you have to practice those, right? So what AI is doing is accelerating your learning and software. So you go and then it's like, to go back to the AI. So, is going to recreate or follow processes or standards that you might not understand. And then as you move along, it's like, well, that decision caused this other pain. Or you will have to like maybe scratch the whole thing and start over again from the beginning and try a different experiment. So that's how I learned Cursor, right? So I created like 6 different toy projects, trying to use different frameworks, different languages, like trying to get all the way to AWS. And it's like you start to realize like, so I work in DevOps, so in development internal tools, right? So now the need that we need is like, how do we integrate our AI with Jira so it can actually go and read the specs from PMs, right? So it will write better code, so I don't have to like digest the Jira and put it in there, right? So the way we work is also changing. And second, uh, going back to if it's AI going to take our jobs or not, at the end of the day, there are still C programmers, right? Who knows C? People that needs to know C, right? So I hear this weekend someone saying there is a difference between coders and engineers, right? So coders is like you have a crude application that even Vercel can do, right? V0 can do in one prompt, like the CRUD application that will give you a table. I have seen people with zero development experience get an application in production that solve their problems. Now, but they are taking Excel market share, right? It's like you don't need to know Excel to do your table. It's a lot faster just to have a prompt and a full website to have your table, right? But there is going to still need engineers, right? Those like really detailed and optimized piece of code that all their tools, including AI, will need.
Okay, so this question is about your setup again. Is good because we have to come back like the main topic of this conversation.
AI
No,
is always.
yeah, now talking about this demo, you're showing us what is the base knowledge you think you need in order to achieve this wall integration we have, or is it possible to achieve is using only AI?
No, not at all, right? So AI is just a way for us to accelerate the development, right? At least it would take like 2 weeks, at least of like going through the iterations, like having animations and all without the knowledge of how to do animations is yeah, it's an enablement.
Yes, it's like we said before. You you don't have kung fu skills, but is like animation for an engineer, for example, and you could expect that AI could do that. But what why because what was the process to create an animation? The AI create the whole process, or you mix the team mix like other tools, for example, the how they get the the sprites or the pictures.
That's an excellent question. So there was a video that, hey, just took a screenshot of Airbnb and ask the prompt, hey, build this website for me. So now you go to website, it's like your shopping cart. It's like, okay, which website I want to look like? And it's like, you just go to a website and start looking at dashboard. It's like, okay, what is somewhat what I need? And you take a screenshot of that and you give it, and it will give you something back. So it's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be the first iteration. And then like the screens, like for example, the human there was created with ChatGPT. Like we asked a prompt, hey, we need a humanoid, and then we got back, no, you cannot create human bodies in it. Okay, create a robot like human. Oh, so that image 100% generated, right? It feels
Okay.
like futuristic and stuff. It is like, yeah, we don't have a designer in the team. It's like incredible.
Yes. Um, but also regarding that, um, you have to have like a little bit of knowledge about how animation works, because like you say, you have to describe the process. So you don't say, hey, give me an animation, maybe it's a GIF animation.
Yeah, that is up to the Gen AI and the experience of the driver, right? Like for example, initially the pulse, the pulse animation, the red dot that grows, right? I have done that before, and I know that CSS is like two lines of CSS, right? Because it's just a repeat, something that grows late. So I know that it was, and the developer was like, yo, this is really hard. No, you just ask it to use like in CSS, similar to CSS. So it's like it's not going to create a code that is going to modify the element on a while loop, which is a potential solution that AI could give you if they don't know the full capabilities, right? So going to the full capabilities is when I say do not write code, I also ask him to do research. Like you can ask, search on the internet what are the best practices creating animations of Flutter, right? And more likely than not, you will be surprised with a third option that you didn't know. Because that's basically what we do as a human, right? It's like, oh, I need to do that. Okay, let me go to Google. Let's five.
Yes. Okay. And for example, the you say like coders versus engineers was a great like opinion, because for example, people in general think that university is not like you could waste time going to a university. Some are thinking that way. So, but you say also that, for example, you say people that could have like an app without knowledge about programming or coding. And I understand that in the background is because, for example, a mindset. So some like roles has different mindsets, and they could have like resourceful with AI. So they could have another point of view, and that point of view could have a good way to solve a solution. Yeah, at the end is creativity working with AI.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is
Um,
you waste time going to a university right now?
Oof, that's a lot of questions. So,
But
but go, going, so it's both sides, right? So you have to learn all the fundamentals, right? So you can not let your career decide for you what you're going to learn, right? Like, for example, I had a chat with a senior developer that didn't know UTP, right? Sorry, UDP, right? TCP and UDP is like, what? But so yes, you can get to that point where like you don't know what's going on there, right? But is that a bad or a good thing, right? So, for example, I always had this like physiological, psychological, yeah, these conversations where I don't know how to build this, and our life depends in this working, right? But I don't know how to do this. But do you have to know how this works exactly under the hood?
No. Yes,
So
and
then
it's a black box.
exactly. So it's like it goes to abstractions, right? So I know that people say abstractions is like hiding complexity away, but no, all models are wrong. Some work, right? So in one example of a good abstraction is like a disk, right? A physical disk that store files. Files is an abstraction. The disk is just bytes, right? But in the abstraction of the file, oh, who has permission to this file, right? The permissions move with the bytes in it so that the OS can enforce the permissions on those files as you move that file around. Humans understand the file because you have files on your physical world, right? So
Yes.
so the my realization is that good abstractions work for humans and machines, right? So the whole thing that I showed today was done during the weekend, right? We had a different version before, and it was like we were trying to do an enhancement, and I call it like shotgun surgery. So shotgun surgery is an anti-pattern in programming where to make a single change, you have to change 7 files in 3 different places, right? And it's 100% guarantee that the next developer will make the same mistakes, right? And then it's like that is evidence that we don't have the right abstraction, right? So we have to deal with all this complexity as we are trying to change the behavior. So at the end of all that is like, okay, you have an action that is going to declare what is the status that you want the devices to be on. How that transfer from GitHub Actions to a running device, it doesn't matter. You just define the state that you want it on.
Okay. Yes. I
uh,
have we
yeah,
we have.
it's true. It's true. I went to university and I learned a lot from university. I made connections in university. Is a test of your commitment. So 100%.
Okay, yes, yes, I share your opinion. University or any kind of space that you can learn something is really nice because also you have to interact with people. For example, meetups are really great spaces because you are discussing solutions and serendipity moments could appears in any time. So, another question. How do you handle versioning and rollback in case of faulty deployments? It's a great question.
Right. Uh, so I want to say, so I work in a like 600 employees company, right? And we have like 60K EC2 environments, right? So deploying is a huge task, and we have like a lot of congestions trying to get into main, right? So that environment is a lot different than the environment that I'm at, right? I have 2 developers and 0 customers because this is a startup, right? Yet I want to control the rollout. And to answer a specific question is like we use GitHub tags, right? So when you git tag, that means that goes to production, right? So you have the CI, which is like you push to main and you ensure that main is always stable and releasable. And that is what is called deployments on demand. So when someone, hopefully the business, decides like when this is going to happen, it happens, right? So you have 2 phases. One is deployment, one is release. They are not the same. Deployment is that you roll out the change to devices, And then you have release, usually with feature flags that you decide what customer at what time are going to be shown to customers. Those are two different stages. But
So,
again,
yeah, okay, go
it
ahead.
depends on the specific of the specific context of that company. What are the pain points, the conditions of their platforms? Like, do they have the experimentation behavior, the culture of experimentation? Because even worse, you pay for observability and nobody's using it. So it's
Yeah, I have another question is related with that because sometimes when you automate some process, you know that everything is automatically, but in some step of the process, you have to approve something or you have to watch that is going or is working good because, for example, this question maybe is about, for example, if you develop a project today, in a week, maybe dependencies have problem because a security issue or something like that. But also you have to read carefully what are saying the logs or something like that. Uh, how do you automate put that in a pipeline? Is possible, or you have to be there looking what is happening?
so yeah, it's complicated. uh, because as you grow, there are. So I'm gonna go focus on SaaS applications, right? So SaaS applications have two modes of infrastructure. You have the pool model, where it's like one VM that has multiple tenants, and then you have the tenant isolation model, where like when you go like to your company day.okta.com, that is because there is tenant isolation. So you get dedicated infrastructure to you, right? So both cases have different challenges. So right now, the path that we took, because this is going to be like cybersecurity and yeah, we took the tenant isolation. So we can actually provision all of this on an account based just on the role. So like I was showing before, the GitHub action will create the S3 bucket if it doesn't exist in that account, and it's going to configure SSM if it doesn't exist for that specific action. So you can have two different apps with different names executing at the same account, but they are going to be creating two different infrastructures, and all 100% automatic. Like nothing has to, because you make mistakes, right? So it's like you forget. It's like, oh, I had to reboot the computer, right? So while we were doing this, I lost count of how many times we have to reimage the Raspberry Pi, right? Because the whole installation is two lines just registering to SSM. So you need the activation ID and activation token, and you install the SSM, and AWS will put your app, your device in the state that the cloud wants it to be. So it's going to install Datadog automatically. It's going to have Flutter. It's going to install like the app automatically, and it's going to restart and put the screen, all with two commands, right? All that is configuring AWS, but it's declared in GitHub Actions.
Okay. Another question is, what was the biggest lesson learned while building this pipeline?
Yeah, this is interesting because it goes back to Cursor, right? So I'm all about experimentation, right? So giving the team a challenge, like doing animations in Flutter. I didn't know we could do animations in Flutter, right? So it's like pushing the limits of the team or how far we can go, and all the lessons learned from this, right? It's like I I work with a partner, and it's like every morning is like, why did you do this, right? And this is the suffering that I was mentioning before. That is learning for the whole team, right? It's like, if you do this, this is going to happen. So that is the experience developer, leveling up the more junior developers into what Cursor did that shouldn't have happened, right? So teaching moments provided quickly.
Okay. And what about the stack? Uh, do you choose the stack, or also is a shared decision with AI?
It's a discovery, right? So I didn't know, for example, that when you install the SSM, the associations are going to be installed automatically. We have to prove that, right? Or another example is like when we have two different apps that want to install on the same device, how do they conflict with each other, right? So you you start getting like this locked problem between the apt install. So how do you manage concurrency on two? Yeah, so is that the only way for you to discover all the problems is with implementation. And as you move along, so the first iteration, just to go one specific example, the first iteration we didn't know that association worked like that. So we had a event bridge that execute a lambda function that execute a document that runs in a specific device, right? And the last iteration is crash all that. AWS as a service for that. So yeah.
Okay. Adrian say go to the university. Definitely, yes. I share the same thought. And this is the another question. What are the most important DevOps or infrastructure abilities and tricks as juniors should focus on learning? And what's your advice on how or where to learn them? Well, this is like a question for you because Alonso is like AWS like
Community
advocate
builder.
or community
Yeah.
builder. Yes. So, for example,
Uh,
how do you, excuse me, the first question for me to complement this question is how do you convert in that role? How do you get to that role?
right. Whoa. So
Because maybe it's related with this question or
yeah,
not.
I had different opinions. Like, let me write it down and compare. So I'm gonna start with the specific answer: DevOps or infrastructure. So if you wanna get to DevOps, it's really unfair because I explained this with like a Final Fantasy ninjas, right? So you get to Paladin level 88, and then when you become a ninja, and you go down half that level, right? So I used to be a developer, and I well, I say that I was a good developer, right? But when you start getting into the world of sysadmin, right, and you start getting into Linux and like getting familiar with all the problems on the OS and down and the infrastructure side, all your development experience is like nice to have, but it doesn't bring value, right? So it's like you have to develop them, and then you move and you develop ops, and then you get in between, and you can be empathetic about both sides, right? You can be okay. If I were to be a developer, because I used to be a developer, I could relate a little bit more about developer. But you're not a developer. You have to keep that in mind. Now that you went to to operations, you're not a developer. But other DevOps start from the operation side. Maybe they are IT. Maybe they start getting into managing Active Directory, and it's like they start getting a lot more responsibility. Okay, now that is the whole data center, and it's like, okay, I want to get down into development. Right, that experience is massively helpful. Right, all the experience that you have from the ops, when you are going to developer, you're going to solve problems differently. Right, so you are going to want to execute that. And now to answer the specific question into the convert, uh, I'm a generalist. I knew that I was a generalist from the beginning, right? So I was always inclined to, I want to see the full end to end of not only the app running in my computer, but the app being automatically deployed to production and how the customers are using. And I'm always expanding that end to end, right? It's like now it's like why the business wants to do this. Like, what do you know that there is this other option that is going to be a lot more effective than building all that solution? So yeah, how far, how generalist you want to be?
Okay. So that was the last question for now, but maybe they continue thinking in more question for you. But how about if we take a look in some particulars or sort snippets from the code that we could discuss, and maybe that could have a good view for the students or the viewers. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
Absolutely. So I want to go deep into how this works. So I'm going to switch now into the operations side, so the governance. So this is a GitHub Actions. So this is how GitHub. Wait, what?
But
Okay. I'm sharing my screen, right?
yes, go ahead.
Okay. And so this is going to
No,
execute another action.
excuse me. The I don't know why the screen the your screen is went out.
Okay,
Uh,
let me share.
Maybe I pressed something.
No, I think I click I lock my computer and I think yeah, there you
Okay,
go. Yeah, so this is the GitHub action. This is where you define like this is going to be the install script that is going to be executed at the beginning, and then this is the definition of the systemd service, and this is where the artifacts are stored on the GitHub actions. So if we go here, we copy. Yeah, we copy the this is the binary, so these bills, and then you put it in this folder, and that folder is passed to the action. So this is how you tell the action, hey, this is the folder I want in the device. And
this
this
is
action,
like the build folder.
yeah, yeah, it's like the build folder with extra, right? Here we're also appending the data.key as an .m file. So that is
Uh,
available for the runner also.
that could be a good like approach to talk because it's a problem where you put those API keys or the keys in general. How do you
Yeah.
manage that?
Oh boy, secrets is the most difficult problem, and environment variables. Those are the two biggest problems on the upside. Why? Because there is literally like in Kubernetes, you can have 10 different ways of storing secrets, right? Every is slightly different and with different constraints, right? Like for example, you can use AWS parameter store, but then you might get rate limits. You might use yeah, it will have two services for secrets that itself. And you can use Terraform Vault. You can use yeah, even one password if you want to go crazy. Uh, so in this case, we decided to pack the secret in the artifact itself. Uh, yeah, so we're using a GitHub secret. So we're not first do not commit secrets to Git because someone will open make this available to anyone in the by mistake, and yeah, you're not going to have a good time. So this is ephemeral. Once this job is done, the runner is killed. So yeah, the other part is that secret goes to S3 and then is pulled on the device itself, right? So we decided to go with a simple approach. The S3 is private, and the device itself doesn't have to have access to AWS or the secret itself, right? So this could have been solved also by like asking AWS for the secret at boot time, but now you are depending on the cloud, right? So if you restart the service and you're offline, how are you going to get access to that secret, right? So that's why the secret is stored on the artifact itself. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I know that could be complicated because, like, for example, you have a EMB5 to declare like the API keys, also maybe database information, everything.
Yeah.
But when you if we, the title of this space is commit. So the when you create a commit, the env file doesn't go to the repository. So
No,
you,
no.
uh,
So that's why this is generated at runtime. So this
okay,
file do not exist. It only exists for the deployment, right?
and
So
okay, and is this like a bad practice sometimes that create like env dot example and then copy and rename this file when the files go to GitHub. Um, I think that is a way to create a very insecure environment. And also in hackathons or in honor events that we have like pen testers, they say they found a lot of API keys on GitHub repositories, and it's like a really big issue for security. What
yeah,
do you think?
yeah, no, 100%. So usually the .m files are in the git ignore, right?
Yes.
So not even when you do git add all is going to be committed. It's too easy if you just have your local environment and you start adding your secrets here and like you just git add and git push and oh no, what did you just do? And then reverting that from master is challenging. Uh, yeah, you're 100% right. For this particular context, for the environment that I'm at, this is the approach that we decided to take. But if you are planning on using like ECS, use task definition secrets. So ECS provide you with a way to store secrets, right?
Uh,
So
and what about the latency or the time to read the key? That could be an issue or not.
uh, excellent point. You have to weigh the benefit and the disadvantages, right? Like Paul, we do usually we store secrets, or actually GitHub as a secret agent that you install on the VM, so that all containers running on that VM can cache the secrets at the container level, at the VM level, right? So the latency is low if there is another container that already pulled that secret, right? Uh, there are multiple ways how to solve that.
Yes.
Uh, the one that is popular these days is actually committing digest secrets to Git. So you use something like I don't remember the name, but yeah, there are tools that are going to encrypt your files, your secrets, like when you save, and then you can commit that to Git. And when it goes to production, the production will have the private key to decrypt the keys. And it sounds like we're going backwards. Like, what are you asking now to commit secrets for digest the secrets? The problem is like treating environment variables and secrets as another thing is also a vulnerability that somebody can basically turn your system down if they get access to override something, or if the developer forgot to change that specific uh, environment in production, because secrets are stored in this place and they have a different workflow that code in your PR in this other way. So how do you make sure that they two work together?
No, okay. I was like highlight that matter because it's like a key point in the whole application. So I want the students and everybody knows that this is not like a regular. You have to know how to deal with this information because it's like the key for your car. If you don't have the key, nothing is going to work. So this important. What another like like crucial or important point in your art or critical point or is you discover in the development process like a process, a critical activity or something that you have to put a lot of effort to understand or to develop. I mean, it's like, for example, the key was like you have to be careful with the keys. Like, what was this causing? What about, for example, the application, the app is a web app. Yes,
This one?
yes, it's a web app or
No,
it's a
this is
mobile app.
Flutter. This is the Flutter
Yes,
app in the
but it's a mobile app or not?
no. So yeah, that's another challenge. We remove the whole web Chrome browser from the device. So the device has the bare minimum OS. It doesn't have desktop
Okay.
at all. So Flutter is connecting directly to the frame buffer. So no OS, no Chrome, not the whole of potential vulnerabilities with the browser. So it's flooded directly to the output.
But is that is because you this when you have like you have to control like a drone or a robot, or in this case uh, read information from like a device. You have to you have a latency that is the way that you took that decision, como like remove remove parts because it's going to be faster, or what about that decision, you took that decision?
Right. So two parts. One is security. So if this thing doesn't have internet, it will not update Chrome, and Chrome is getting security fixes like almost monthly. Right. So, like for example, if you check how they hacked the Wii, it was through a WebView plugin. Right. So you just go to that specific link, and a payload can just hack your ah your Wii U. Uh, so web and Chrome is like really flexible, but with flexibility comes a lot of potential vulnerabilities. So the security aspect is like we don't want to use a browser. That was the first part. The second part, even during development, we installed the full-fledged desktop and then the CPU. So keep in mind that this is a Raspberry Pi Zero, so you have like 500 megabytes, right? So when we installed the full-fledged the desktop, we were like 88 CPU all the time, right? And we're not getting the benefits of having a full desktop on the device if we just want to have use it as a kiosk and have this dedicated screen. So performance and security.
Yes, perform. Also, performance was the decision for Flutter offer
uh,
good performance.
so we also try KeyTube. It's a very popular UI framework for HMI, human machine interface devices. Uh, but that one has like years and years and years of features. So it's blurred. It supports a lot of things. It have the multiple ways to do the same thing. So and Flutter, the experiments that I did in like an hour to get started with materials was like amazing. The UI was like literally like an app. And then I read that like 3 out of 5 Android apps are built in Flutter on the Play Store. Don't quote me on that. That's what I read. So it's like, oh wow. So yeah, the tricky part is that Flutter is not really well maintaining the Google team. I think it's like that team that is like performing well but not getting reinvested. But it's like so far we're getting amazing experience with Flutter.
Yes, uh, some companies feel that way, that Flutter is a good tool, but they don't have like they have a great community, but the support from Google is maybe the next AO event from Google, the things is going to change maybe, but this is like a hard decision to take. If, for example, if you want to solve this idea to another, like an entrepreneur or an investor that want your solution, maybe if you say Flutter, they could say why Flutter, because or they don't trust Flutter sometimes. Do you
Right,
understand?
but so I'm like 95% sure that New One uses Flutter for their apps, right? And New One is like up
Yes,
to the right, up to the right?
yes,
So, and they are investing a lot in that community, right? So it's like,
yes,
it's not like it's a community that is dying either. There is a like big companies also that are invested in the tool, and they
yes.
get the benefits, right?
Yes, that this is the reason community is supporting Flutter, and the community is really also New Bank is a good is a good investor there. But for example, you are storing data. Where are you storing that data?
Right. So this is just a device. The plan is like to have a control plane in AWS eventually. And again, going back to the tenancy model, it would be isolated whole AWS account for that particular tenant. And
Okay. Oh, excuse me. What are you going to? You're finished, or you're going to say anything else?
no, no, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I was because Flutter is Google Stack, and Flutter is when you think in Flutter, you also is like in the same pack Firebase, because they the stack is like um, uh, I have seen every many good apps, and they use Firebase because they have, for example, real-time databases.
Yeah.
So this is a feature great for your project, or what do you think about that?
Right. So we're getting now into IoT and IoT gateways. So it's complicated. I don't think that these devices are going to have internet. So one of the requirements is that they have to work
Okay.
offline. So to solve that problem, you actually have an IoT gateway inside the network, and that is the one that is going to store the data. And we might have eventual connection to update and patch, but it has to support like offline. And then like, yeah, right now we don't have specifics about what tool we're going to use. Again, I'm an explorer, so I like to try different,
Yes.
like experience different tools, because one thing is what the marketing say and another is what the developer feel.
Yes, but that, yes, I don't remember that you mentioned that. But also, Firebase is because Firebase is for mobility in general. So one feature is you could synchronize your data
Yeah,
with the Firestore, for example. Is
yeah.
not your is not a requirement for your project, or
So, for
could be.
example, if we were to use AWS Greengrass, which is the IoT gateway of AWS, they have eventual consistency with AWS. So I can send events like IoT events private in the on-prem, and some events can go to the cloud, right? And it also have a buffer. So if I don't have connection, the API IoT gateway will store those events locally until the connection is, and then it's going to push those. Same with like Kinesis streams or Kafka events. Like all that is managed by the IoT gateway itself. So that remove a lot of complexity from the operations.
Yes, this is like a callback that finish in the time, or something like that, or not.
It could be a schedule event. Yes, it could be just like things that happen that have to be propagated, right? So you usually have these two problems. Is like you update the device, like somebody can change something in the device, and then that event has to be propagated to the cloud, because in the cloud, cloud is by corporate. So corporate have to understand the state of everything, and maybe they are also going to make changes. Like I'm going to disable this device because I got a report that something bad happened. Right. So that is a lot of complexity there, because if you can modify both, which one wins when they are not connected? So yeah, a lot of challenges in that integration.
Yes. Well, okay. Uh, okay. We almost is the time almost is over, but thank you, Alonso, for everything. I don't know if some of the viewers have the last question or they want to say anything. Also, I share everything about Alonso in Instagram, LinkedIn, and or like social media accounts, but maybe you could gain new followers from our students. And you know, I know that they could ask you about their projects or ask you more about this project. Also, I don't have the like I know I have your repository, but from the meetup. But
Right.
if you could share your
Yeah.
handle, GitHub
Yeah.
handle, I could share with the student because that this is a great repository to follow. And also you have a lot of projects that maybe uh, maybe in another time we could talk about. For example,
Absolutely.
I was talking yesterday with the students that you have like a box to like a lab in your room for CNN,
CNC machine.
yes, CNC machine. I say
Yeah. So this
I
is this
I
is a this is a 3 in
wait
1. So you can take this away. So this is another
wait
laser. Can you hear me?
yes, wait, okay, I going to put you in, but I don't know how to do that right now. Wait a second. Mm, no.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
So
go ahead. I
yeah. So let me move a little bit more. Yeah. No. So basically, this is called a snap maker. This is a 3D printer, laser cut, and CNC. So basically, what happened is that you change this head. This is the laser right now. You change the head and put like a drill, and now it's a CNC machine. And you change this and put the extruder, and now it's a 3D printer. So yeah, so far so good.
yes, I promise them that I'm going to ask you about your machine. It's really nice.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great. Like you get into the thing. I had to learn like SVG editing, and then like a lot of failures. Same like going too deep, or the laser didn't cut through the stuff, and then you can literally download your device, whatever you want. Right? It's like I don't know. You can 3D print that handler to hold your phone when you're going to sleep, and it's like it's amazing. Like we're living the future, not only with AI, but also with like
with
manufacturing.
machine, yes. Okay, Alonso, thank you very much. We hope
Gracias, Andrés.
we could see you anytime. Muchas gracias. Y muchas gracias a todos por participar. Bueno, nos vemos.
Adiós.
Chao.